Welcome back to 3 Up, 3 Downs, AL West division breakdowns. We've done almost the whole division. We're rounding them out with the Oakland Athletics, the lowest payroll in the MLB. The A's. Let's look at this roster. This might be a quick one here, boys and ladies and gentlemen. Leading off this lineup, Tony Kemp, followed by Ramon Laureano, Seth Brown, Jesus Aguilar, Jace Peterson, Shea Langeliers, thank you, Alex, Connor Capel, Nick Allen, and Estri Ruiz. The bench, Manny Pena, Ryan Noda, Eldemis Diaz, and Christian Pache. What do you got on this A's roster?
Yeah, I mean, it's the A's, so it's not good on paper, and we've seen this before where they actually become good, and there's probably going to be some breakouts here. But there's also a good amount of trade bait. It's always tough to know with the A's because, unfortunately, the way baseball works, there's just some teams that are never interested in competing, and they may trade for some top prospects, but they don't really look to do anything with that except for like one flash in the pan year, which we've seen from the A's. So I don't want to hit on them too much. They've made the playoffs a couple times recently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I think some guys to look out for here. Ramon Laureano, a guy who had a PED suspension, a toolsy player, can steal bases, can hit for power. Doesn't necessarily hit for the most average, but a useful player.
He's a character too.
He totally is, and he may have a good season where he could be moved at the deadline to a contending team because he can kind of do everything. He's a valuable piece. Jesus Aguilar will probably hit some bombs. Seth Brown had a good year last year. Shea Langeliers was a top prospect for them, and it looks like he's going to be a pretty good player at catcher. And, other than that, I mean, there's not too much. Eldemis Diaz will probably get traded because he kind of seemingly finds his way onto contending teams because he's kind of like Swiss Army knife, can play a lot of positions, has a good bat.
Quality utility man.
Yeah, he's a quality utility man. Other than that, I mean, I don't really have much on this lineup because I really don't love it. What you're looking for again with all these young teams, development, right? Mm-hmm. Let's see some of these young guys. I don't know much about Estri Ruiz. Slotted in to play center field. Looks like he can steal bases. Fangraphs projecting 27 stolen bases, so he's got some speed on the base paths, which could be fun. Tony Kemp, kind of a good, again, utility man, also can kind of hit, can kind of run the bases. He's small, so he's kind of fun when he's doing so. Like when he hits a homer, it's kind of cool because he's just short. But yeah, I don't know. The A's, it's tough, and I don't want to bash on the A's too much, but it's tough when you have a team that just seemingly does not want to have good players ever if they cost anything over $1 million. I mean, it's crazy.
I'm going to change our pace a little bit. And I want A's fans to hop in the chat, hop in our comments. Is it the hardest team in the MLB to be a fan of? And I know, we've said,
the Pirates are up there too.
Recent playoff expectations in the last few years, but they don't spend any money. They have a ballpark that's falling apart. They have rumors swirling around that they may be moving to Las Vegas.
Yep.
I gotta think I'm not trying to bash on you, Oakland fans. I gotta think this is one of the hardest teams, if not the hardest, to be a fan of in the Major League Baseball, in the major leagues. But that's why we're fans. That's why we're passionate. It makes winning that much sweeter.
It's even harder because this is a historic franchise, right? Yeah. We're talking about some of the best jerseys in sports in my mind.
We've got Ricky up there on the wall.
Yeah, we got Ricky in our set. They have some legendary players who played there. They got Moneyball, the biggest baseball movie there is, about them. They just have a lot of history, and it's a history of losing the key players, which is unfortunate.
Yep.
Because it is a cool fan base, and there's a lot of dedicated fans there. If you just turned on a game and saw the empty stadium, you may not realize it, but they're out there in the outfield. They got a section of ultras going at it, so it is tough. But one good thing about this team is they've shown a pretty good ability to develop players. Which always gives you excitement as an A's fan. What are they going to find next? And it's not just from the Moneyball. It's continued. They've continued to operate well, even if they're as cheap as can be.
I think you're spot on about that. And A's fans, I'm not coming after you. I think you are the most devoted fans potentially out there in the major leagues. But let's take a look at this rotation in bullpen. Starting off, Paul Blackburn, followed by Shintaro Fujinami, then James Caprillion, Drew Rosinski, and JP Sears. What do you got on this rotation before we hop into the bullpen?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot better than the lineup, and I think there's reason to be excited. I don't know much about Shintaro Fujinami.
First year in the league, international signing for this A's team.
Yep, and then they also got this guy Drew Rucinski from the KBO, which I always find it's interesting when a player starts off in North America, goes to the KBO, and comes back.
And it's not like he's 34. He's a seasoned vet, if that means in the KBO or in the major leagues.
Yeah, but I think those two are going to be interesting to watch just to see how their game translates, what they're getting. Paul Blackburn and James Caprillion both had good years last year, and I think could be interesting in terms of what they bring. I don't think they have the most upside. They're definitely more pitch to contact, but they both had a good string of starts last year that led to them just having good seasons. JP Sears was one of the big pieces that I think maybe the big piece that they got in the Frankie Montas deal. Will be interesting to see what he brings. Again, Fangraphs projecting a 3.81 ERA this year. That's pretty good. I'm not sure. He's 27 now, so you hope he's a little more polished, and I think that's what they thought they were getting in this trade. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings. I know he was a prospect with some pedigree, so I'm excited to see him. Anytime new young talent comes into the league is fun to watch.
Yeah.
And then what I found interesting is, and we've been looking at, it's not like to say that this is the rule of thumb for things, but we look at the Fangraphs projections just to kind of get a sense of some of the players we don't know. Because unfortunately, with the roster size of the MLB, we're not going to know all your relievers, They have all but 2 of the relievers projected for sub-4 ERAs, and some of them with pretty high strikeout numbers. I think that is potentially interesting because the A's, they're going to have 1 or 2 relievers who are going to be all-star quality or big-time trade bait. That happens every year, more or less, So I'm interested to see what happens with this bullpen because on paper, from Fangraphs, it looks like it could be solid. It could be an average to above average bullpen.
A's fans are looking for what return could happen when you look at that. Trevor May, probably the biggest trade piece on this roster, and he's a reliever. He will be the hopeful closer for this A's team. But no, I think you're spot on. I mean, it's 7 guys that are 5 guys that are sub 3 or 4 ERAs. That's impressive stuff, and a bullpen that is sneaky good, sneaky one of the best bullpens in this AL West, if you believe it or not. Let's take a look at our X Factor. Who is your X Factor for this A's roster?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Shea Langeliers. I want to see what he can bring. It's going to be his second year in the majors, and he's actually going to get a good look this year. He just played a little bit last year.
I like it.
Just what happens there. I think it's, again, there's one route to go here where it's like trade piece, and the other route is like development for the future core. I would love to see what Shea Langeliers brings. A name I've heard a lot. I like to prospect watch, especially when the White Sox were rebuilding. So familiar with the name for a while. Excited to see what he can bring. I know he has some pop in the bat, so he's going to be my X Factor.
I like it. I like it a lot because it's going to be a little bit better than mine because I'm going to pick by committee the bullpen, and I'm picking the bullpen because A's fans are just looking for that return. Capitalize on the return. Set this team up for the future. Ask for a great bullpen. It may not be in pitching situations that are winnable, but the fact is ERA counts, innings pitched counts, strikeout numbers count. Let's get some return for this A's roster. The bullpen is my X Factor. Predictions, bottom of the cellar.
Yeah,
Easy,
I agree.
Easy money. There's no reason to spend too much time on it. Oakland fans, if you feel like we've been harsh, if you feel like you've got a little bit of a comment of is it tough to be an A's fan? Absolutely. I'd love to hear what your point of view is on that, but hop in the comments, give us a like, give us a subscribe, check out all the Star 6 media content. That concludes our AL West 3 up, 3 down division breakdown.